Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a Daria tier list video. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back, especially for those of you who have been following the Daria reactions from start to finish. I know there are a lot of folks who've been coming to the series late, jumping on like midpoint and going back and watching some of the older episodes, some of the stuff from the beginning and going through the journey with me as we went along, and y'all seen a lot of the changes I've had to go through. Those who know I was using Amazon for the footage when we had the circular format and the original blurs and stuff, and then things changed. I had and to where I had to use the infamous Daria Complete Series box set, and there is going to be a video of me. You will see how long this damn box it takes to decode something. It's going to be an extra video off onto the side, but y'all will see I'm not even kidding on this box set. And of course, I'm holding this box set, and those who know that this is not the original case. I had to replace the original case because the disc kept falling off the little whatever hell you call these things, the original case. Um, and so needed to get a replacement case. And funny enough, it wasn't just that box set I need to replace with a different case. I had to do the same thing for the Extreme Ghostbusters complete series DVD set as well. So it's a good thing I got a 2-pack of these because I had the same problem with another DVD case. That aside, the tier this is again a tier going to be a tier list video. We're going to go to all 65 episodes, plus the 2 movies. The tier list I'm going with is S, A, B, C, D, F. We begin. Why F? Because there is one episode I absolutely truly hate, and it is a season 5 episode. And maybe because it's still fresh in my memory. Matter of fact, it's very fresh in my memory if you're looking at the data when I recorded each individual video for this series. But let's get into it, shall we? Let's so we're on tier list maker, and there you go. Thankfully somebody had the idea of doing a Daria tier list video at one point in time, and near as I'm gonna tell, these are in actual episode order. Because some of the images I very much recognize, and then there are a bunch I don't. Anyway, Steamers, episode 1. Daria moves with her family from Highland, Texas, to a suburb called Lawndale in an unnamed state, where her sister Quinn gains instant popularity, and of course Daria has this gets put into an esteem boosting class taught by Mr. O'Neill. She meets Jane. Six Sad World makes its premiere. All in all, it's the opening salvo of Daria, a tier. It gets the series off to a wonderful start, setting up everything. The Invitation, which pushes a big focus on Brittany. Uh, Grateful for Daria's help in our class. Dim-witted cheerleader Brittany invites her to a party held by the popular crowd in the gated community. Probably memorable for a couple of things. Things that I remember at this point in time. Jane has some fun in the laundry room. Quinn locks herself in the bathroom. Upchuck drives Quinn, Jane, and Daria home. They also get this is uh without question that's an S tier episode. Uh, right off the bat there. College board. After meeting clients who are prepping their 3-year-old daughter to college, again 3-year-old, and then Jake feared that Darwin Quinn would not be prepared and forced him into Lawndale High's college prep course, and they take him up to Middleton College. Um, this episode sticks out in my mind for two things. One, Daria being so smart that she's able to make some cash off of the college students and redoing their papers and so forth. Uh, but then you have two things in this episode. One being that Quinn gets, becomes like the keg queen. And two, the college prep guy taking Quinn out, or at least literally trying to get into her jeans. C tier. I like the episode, but there are things about it that I don't particularly care for. So there you go. Cafe Desafetico, Lawndale's local internet cafe, has a break-in, and Mr. O'Neill thinks he can prevent future vandalism and theft by restoring it as one of the hip coffee houses of the 1960s, which and then Daria later inspires a riot with with a dramatic reading at the end of the episode. Really, the ending is what's memorable about it. But other than that, it's a D tier for me. Mauled. Again, these are not going to be fair. These are my judgment calls here. So my opinions on it. Again, it's going off of my instant memory here. Mauled. Mrs. Bennett takes her economic class on a field trip to the Mall of the Millennium. Larry and Jane want nothing to do with the trip, but have no way out of it. Quinn ends up hitching a ride there. I think also with the fashion club. Y'all get a ride uh, there. Jody kind of makes her first mark, speaking up and having questions towards like the mall executive, only to kind of like sell out. Um, yeah, and also Daria gets a knick-knack and a doodad. It's a C tier episode. Kind of average in a lot of ways. Uh this year's model, a modeling agency comes to Lawndale High looking for new talent. Quinn participates while Daria is disgusted with the arrangement and looks for a way to kick them out. The episode that ends with Kevin being no wait. Is this the one where Kevin is the model? Or is it Oh yeah, this is the one where Mrs. Lee walks in at the very end, right? Um, Kind of goes to show how memorable it is here. If I'm having a hard time remembering after rereading the blurbs of the episodes to make sure I have a strong memory on it. Uh, it's a D tier there. The lab brat, as part of a project for Mrs. Barches. Science class, Daria is paired with Kevin, while Brittany is paired with Upchuck. The so it's This has a lot of great moments there. Mrs. Barch is a big coming out party as a character, as her being completely man hating, having in for Kevin, Mac to an extent, and Upchuck. It's You had the whole thing with Kevin and Jake bonding over football. Um, Quinn trying to woo Kevin, while since he's coming over to the Morgendorfers during the course of the experiment. Brittany trying to sabotage things. Upchuck, not at hit. Well, Upchuck is a bit of I don't want to call Upchuck a sleazeball, but at the same because there is a charm to his character, but him more or less blackmailing Brittany is kind of like a underlying thing there. But there is enough in this episode for me to call it a B. Pinch sitter, desperate to avoid meeting with a family therapist, Daria gets stuck babysitting two children for Quinn instead, and proceeds to deprogram them. This isn't like Pinch sitter is without question an iconic episode. With how Daria just totally like gets these Stepford children out of their pre-program idealistic view of from their parents, and it actually gets revisited. The boy gets appears later in the series, and it's a reminder when they paired up, and that he's able to, like, oh, sees Daria, he gets lost in the parade. Yeah, I love the parade. We'll get to that, but the fact that there is that callback, and it kind of goes to show how far Daria evolved as a character, where she was reluctant to be a pinch hitter, but seasons later, he evolves. So pinch hitter is without question a milestone episode for Daria as a character, because one could argue it's the episode that really gets her gets the ball on the rolling in terms of her character evolution. It's a slow, gradual process, but this is like it's an important episode. Uh, let's see. Too cute. Quinn decides on getting rhinoplasty after seeing a girl in class named Brooke get it as well. Uh, but the only way Ken can get the nose job is if Daria gets plastic surgery to look like Quinn. Too cute is uh it's not a good episode. The thing that really stands out about it, and it's the thumbnail here for the pinned image, kind of making it stand out to an extent, with Kevin, Mrs. Barch more or less having it in for Kevin and having him like be uglified. So it's kind of like the counterpoint to Quinn and the cuteness and the attractiveness, like the point counterpoint there. But yeah, not a good episode. The big house. Helen and Jake set some ground rules for Darby and Quinn after both come home late. When Quinn breaks the rules, the girls are tried in family court and grounded for a month. This episode. It's it's definitely a banger. It's a B tier episode. The whole family court drama uh, with the Morgendorfers is real cool. You have the rock and roll the rock DJs versus the teachers, and Mr. DiMartino basically being the subject of a school wager. It's there's enough there. There's quite a few laugh out moments there. But there's also, at least for me, if I'm remembering my own watch through of the episode correctly, the fact that the tablets, the commandments for the laws, was a bit inconsistent on how many appearing on each tablet. Warrior. Daria and Jane hitch a ride to the Turnapalooza Festival with Jane's brother Trent. Uh, and with Jane paying for gas, the fashion club and other long day students try to get to the festival as well, but they all get stuck in a traffic jam. Daria basically goes through hell to strip. Her glasses are broken. She sees stung by a bee. She sits in peanut butter. There's also an episode where she has like the black t-shirt jeans look. Uh, you have the fashion club stopping off at a diner for like really one memorable scene. But the highlight of the episode is Daria and Trent at the very end, uh, where they're sitting on by the side of the road and making the most of it, and one of it's one of Trent's shining moments. It's an A tier episode for me. Um, because there's a lot about it that I absolutely like. It's very well paced. Keep in mind, at this point, a lot of these things, it's been over a year or close to a year since I've seen a lot. Season one, that was covered like in what, March, April, May of last year. So I'm trying to remember a large way there. The teachings of Don Jake. The Morgendorfers go on a camping trip to alleviate Jake's mounting stress. The same weekend, Trent and Jane attend their family reunion, aka the episode where Jake, Helen, and Quinn get stoned out of their minds on wild berries. Uh, the Trent and Jane family reunion is kind of, they don't want to go. They're more or less forced into it to represent their side of the clan. Um, it's C tier. I mean, there's a realness there. It's like, I'm not sure what they were thinking at this point, but it's it's a fine episode. It's an okay episode. The surrealness of Jake, Helen, and Quinn. This is going more and more insane while out in the woods. Is just nuts. The misery chick. After an obnoxious local celebrity, aka Tommy Sherman, dies on a visit to Lawndale, everyone seeks counsel from Daria about being miserable. Uh, but it, there's no question here. The Tommy Sherman episode, as I always refer to it as, it's an S tier episode. Tommy Sherman is an outright jerk. Everyone that he comes across on his visit to Lawndale High for that goalpost, he comes across Daria, and and the whole thing of him dropping dead and everyone labeling Daria, the whole thing on labels is something I have a strong issue with. Uh, it's 9 a.m. because I was someone who in high school was labeled. Ironically, no, it's less than 2 years after this episode premiered, I had to deal with a situation. Uh, it's a great episode. It's a great season finale, and it's an episode that kind of is like the first time you actually see a rift between Daria and Jane, because Jane goes out of her way to avoid Daria because Jane has to more or less cope with the situation of what happened. All right, so that's season one in a nutshell. There, so okay, kind of all over the board. So Arts and Crash. Daria and Jane created a iconolastic poster for a contest depicting a teenage girl who secretly has an eating disorder. But Miss Lee and Mr. O'Neill keep urging Daria and Jane to change the artwork into something more positive. This episode right here, more so, definitely more so than the Big House, is Helen's coming out as a character in terms of her being not only a lawyer. It was like, oh, see her sign as both a lawyer and from a legality matter in terms of her coming to bat for Daria and Jane, and also her as a protective mother, like coming to bat for Daria when she finds out the situation involving the poster, what Miss Lee and Mr. O'Neill did. It's Season two gets off to an excellent start. It gets off to an excellent start with Arts and Crafts. It's like the issues in terms of censorship and ownership of artwork is like, oh, if you make something into a contest and you don't and the organizers make a change to your artwork because they disagree with what you're presenting, it's it comes up because let's face it, those of you who, for whatever reason, are Zack Snyder fans and your whole release the Snyder Cup, release his original vision, that's kind of like the same thing here, where Warner Brothers, like, yeah, Zack Snyder's movies was freaking awful, and so try and make the most out of what was there, and then you release his version of the film, and it's and it ended up being awful. But we're not talking about the Snyderverse. We're talking about Daria, but the whole same thing is there. The Daria Hunter. Lawndale High goes on another field trip, this time to a paintball course with Helen and Jake as parental chaperones. Uh, with, I think, off the top of the head, Brittany showing some tactical skills, and her doing some backflips and combat abilities. That just That's instantly what I come to mind that comes to mind off the top of my head. The ending with Sandy being left in the mud is iconic. The Jake and Mr. DiMartino being stuck in a bunker or a foxhole. No, it was like some sort of bunker. When it starts raining is an interesting pairing. Uh, wait, this episode ends with wait, who ends up Mrs. Barch and Mr. O'Neill? Is this the episode where those two hook up? Yes, it is. It is the episode where they hook up for the first time. Daria and Jen go off, take a long walk to see a giant shark tooth. There is a lot in this episode. It's S tier. That's why I say season 2 gets off to a bam perfect start. Quinn the Brain. Quinn needs a quick passing grade in English and ends up writing an impressive essay, but fears that it might give her a reputation as a nerd. Instead, it gives her a new following as a trendy intellectual. And and essentially, this is the episode where Daria dresses as Quinn at the to more or less to some extent parody Quinn to a very brief extent when the three J's come to Daria, says like they want Quinn back. It's a um it's a it's a great episode, but I won't put it in the S tier. I will put it in the A tier. Um, because the whole cool point of the episode is regarding Daria's identity. Well, if she's the brain and Quinn is suddenly going to use her natural given intelligence to some degree, and it's like it basically cuts out what Daria feels is unique about herself. It's a pretty, again, what keeps it from being an S tier is that it does. I don't remember if there was like a strong B plot or something else there beyond. No, it's like there was like the riffs with the Fashion Club, but it's an A tier episode. I can't justify putting it below an A. I don't. The introduction of Aunt Amy, if Daria and Quinn are ordered to be bridesmaids in their cousin Aaron's wedding, and it's basically, again, this it's the episode where Aunt Amy is introduced. This episode has a bit of a creep factor with the priest trying to get into Quinn's dress. So see, when I remember certain things, it's like, God damn, there are certain things that just gonna drag an episode down, and that's one of them. Granted, yes, Quinn getting like the priest and one of the groomsmen to fight over her is perfect, and Aunt Amy is awesome, but that whole priest aspect there, uh, it kind of, I would put it in an A tier, but it drags it down to a B. It's like there are certain things about certain episodes I just don't care for, and it drags things down. The way it wasn't. Helen and Jake's old hippie friends, Willow and Coyote Jaeger visit, causing them to doubt their own value system. Th- basically, yeah, it's the hippie episode and an episode that kind of raises into questions like exactly how old are Jake and Helen in relation to everything? Because if you're, yes, they're old enough to be in the baby boomers, but Jake went to military school. There was indication that he could have gone to Vietnam. So if like depending on when they were born in the 50s, there would have been teens at the time of the height of the hippie movement and Woodstock and everything. Um, but it's a it's a C tier episode. It really is. It's like Jake and Helen seeing like wondering as like how far they've changed when they see like their friends have not really changed at all over the same long period of time. but it's definitely a close knit episode. That was then. This is dumb. Is the that episode? So, Monster Daria and Jane follow Quinn around for a day for a school video project, and the irresistible opportunity to expose her shallow personality, which Helen prevents by having a talk to Daria about. Uh, and Jake transfers his old family videos and gets hung up on a clip about him falling him off a bike. Uh ooh, you would think is like you go from season two, starts off with bangers, and yeah, uh, it's granted I like the joke and everything, and I like Jake as a character, but you thinking back doesn't make it a good episode, and with how everything was balanced out and paced. And then, no, for me, it doesn't quite hold up as I'm thinking about it. So, yeah, it's a D tier episode. Keep in mind, I very much love my entire journey, but if I'm basing these episodes off my memory as we're running through here for this tier list. So, the new kid, while working on the yearbook staff, again, proof that Daria is getting out there. Daria meets a new student, Ted, a sheltered, formerly homeschooled teen with a combination of arcane knowledge and extreme naivete, who proposed changes to the yearbook that don't go over well with everyone. Um, Daria, basically, the episode where Daria comes the closest to having like a boyfriend, because Daria and Ted get along fairly well. And if it wasn't for the fact that Ted was introduced to clearly be a one shot character, he could have been reoccurring. It's like him getting more and more out of his shell could have been very interesting. But the ending of the episode stands out with uh the arcade and the virtual reality setup. It's pretty cool, but it's a C tier. C tier for me. If Ted stuck around as a to be a reoccurring character, it would have been interesting to see how that relationship with him and Daria would have played off. But so it's like a great starting point to see how things could have evolved. But you essentially have all of their relationship. Essentially, you have what you would see with uh Daria and Tom uh crammed down into one episode to like I said, not the same like story arc, but like the whole like beginning meeting the characters, getting to know them, but it's all crammed together to fit like the runtime, and like it's a great idea that's just it needs more time, essentially there. Gifted. Daria and Jody are invited to tour an elite college for gifted students. Quinn stays over with her friends and going from house to house and Quinn ends up staying with Jane. Uh, this is this is oddly enough also a C tier episode. The college tour with the Morgendorfers and Jody doesn't really go anywhere. The Jody's parents certainly come across as being overly compensating, and I understand why. I understand why Jody's parents are depicted the way they are. Jody's mother is very career driven, and she had to put everything on hold because she had another child. Uh, Jody's father definitely wants the best for her, but they come across as being unintentionally or intentionally very irritating at times. What saves this episode from going into the D tier is the stuff with Quinn. She goes to Sandy's house first. She gets kicked out. She goes to Tiffany's. She gets kicked out. She goes to Stacy's and she runs out because Stacy freaks her out. And then at the end of things, she goes to Jane. And the fact that Quinn considers Jane someone like, okay, in a pinch, Jane is someone that she could depend on in a rough situation, even though she clearly irritates the hell out of Jane. It's a Says a lot about the level of trust Quinn has in Daria's choice of friends. Because if Jane is Daria's friend, that means there is, like, essentially, if Daria is cool with Jane, that's an indicator to Quinn. Is like, okay, this is someone I could trust. So it's a very, so essentially it's Quinn's plot that saves the episode, as far as I'm concerned. Ew, the reoccurrence of a mysterious radish lands Daria in the hospital, but her reluctance to inform people of why she is there leads to some outlandish rumors. Daria in the hospital, the Hives episode, where she breaks out in it anytime she's like emotionally uh uh she gets flustered. We know this. We know Daria gets flustered to a very large degree. And it's a you get the moment with Daria and the doctor who kicks her family out of the room so she could just get some peace. The whole school rumors things about Daria, like why she's in the hospital, leads to everybody coming there to visit her. But again, it's an episode that's kind of carries its weight with the rumors and speculation. Trying no, this is not the episode. I'm trying not the episode where Trent is trying to get a birthday present. It's a C tier because I can't remember anything else about the episode off the top of my head. Fair enough. Mrs. Lee organizes a Renaissance fair to repair the library roof because the money mysteriously was spent on a polygraph machine. It requires students to either participate or purchase a ticket or else face suspension. Uh, this is let's see. This is the episode where Brittany tries to keep Kevin from being participating in a play. I think it's Romeo and Juliet, and Quinn is playing Juliet. Yeah. Brittany drives Kevin like away, quite literally away from the school grounds. like so it's a running gag for a couple scenes, and it ends on that note where Kevin starts questioning. Is like, "Hey, babe, this is not the way to the school." Like, are you sure, Kevin? You got Mr. DiMartino as the Black Knight. The Dane and Jane get stuck on a Ferris wheel. It's a nice like world building episode because a lot of characters get quite a bit of screen time. So we put that as a B. See Jane run. Jane joins the track team, leaving Daria so alone that she begins to talk to herself. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I talk to myself, and by proxy, I talk to you guys. Uh, Quinn, and there's also the whole thing with Quinn wearing high heels, but it's the episode where Daria and Jane are doing like cheerleader stuff. But See Jane Run is certainly an episode that explores that, okay, if Jane wants to, that she could be a track star, she could be a star athlete, and she most certainly considers it. It's a another episode that has like the riff with Daria and Jane, um, but it also shows a side of Jane that we don't really see. Like we know at this point that Jane goes for a run. She does it. It's something that going for a run and jogging and stuff is something that she likes to do. So and I can't take any points off for it. What keeps it from an S episode, from being in that S tier? Well, I can't really justify putting it up here with what I already threw up there. Maybe because it's like, oh, the Daria Hunter is up there. It's like, yeah, but there's just so much in that episode that kind of keeps it above there. Let's see. Pierce me when helping Trent pick out a birthday present for Jane. Daria is talking to getting her navel pierced. And also Helen and Quinn are doing the mother-daughter fashion show at Lawndale High. I I never the whole piercing thing is something that kind of bothers me. It's like Daria caving into peer pressure, doing stuff for a guy. Um, it's kind of it's one of those moments where for Daria as a character does something stupid. So it's character evolution that way. Uh, but it is like not really a plotline that I like. The Helen, uh, the Helen and Quinn, mother the mother daughter teaming up for the fashion show aspect does kind of give the indication that the rivalry, the passive aggressive attitude passive aggressive warfare that exists between Quinn and Sandy certainly extends to their mothers. So I don't really like the episode overall, though. Right where it hurts, Daria finds her special school assignment writing a short story featuring people she knows, unusually and frustratingly difficult. Meanwhile, Jake and Helen are going through a midlife crisis. This is an S tier episode, without question, is an S tier episode on the grounds that Mr. O'Neill gives Daria the idea. Okay, here's the central figure that people get together for a card game. What can you do with it? Daria's being creatively frustrated. It's like, okay, how the hell do you make this work? Uh, and having the right to form to the assignment that she was given, and then coming up with the fact that she writes about her family, like how she using like a future versions of them. Like, okay, Daria is a successful writer. Jake and Helen are happily retired. Quinn is married and has kids. It's and they all get together for a family card game, and you got Helen like who reads the story and is deeply touched. It's a wonderful episode, and it's why when I was talking about at the when talked about um at the end of is it college yet? Like, what would a Daria revisit series be like? This is the episode that gives me that uh the the idea like, okay, don't reboot Daria, don't try to pick it up where we left off. You go flash forward. You evolve the characters, you evolve Daria, you evolve Quinn and everything. You put Daria and Quinn in the roles of their parents, and you bring back all the other characters just older. Then you have like, another generation. Much like I was just like I have to say it with Roseanne and then subsequently the Connors. Oh, it could work. It would work. So that wraps up season two. Season two gets off to a good start, but then it like about midway it has some clunkers, but it does have like three outstanding episodes. Then like some that like kind of keep them up from that particular tier, and Daria the musical. In a musical episode, a hurricane bears down on Lawndale. Uh, it, it's an S tier episode. This is the episode that introduces the fact that Jake and Trent would get along, and we will see that later on. Not to mention the fact that Helen is aware of Trent and everything there, and that Helen would actually look out for Trent and Jane, which we would see later on. Daria, Jane, Kevin, and Brittany being stuck on the roof of Lawndale High, and also in like the little shed on top of the roof of the school is it's an interesting quartet of characters there. There's just so much in this episode, and this is the episode where I said it's in production order. It's an episode that was supposed to air much later than it did, but uh, because it was supposed to be the seventh episode of season three, but it got moved up. Every other episode airs in like the correct order, but it's kind of interesting that this that it got pushed up. Or what was supposed to be like a mid-season opener is to be the season premiere, and it's an iconic episode. What more can I say about it? Well, actually, you want more about what I would say about it? You can always revisit my watch through of it. Through a lens darkly, Daria is reluctantly persuaded to wear contact lenses, but she finds them physically, socially, and philosophically uncomfortable. This is an A tier episode. Fun fact: I have a younger brother who, like me, wears glasses, but he also has worn contacts. I have never considered wearing contacts, not once at all. Granted, it was as much as you see me rub my eyes and stuff during my streams and so forth. Um, it's it's a rough thing there. It's like yes, contacts would make you look so more appealing because you don't have glasses hiding your best features and so forth. But what Daria goes through it that she finds it physically uncomfortable to deal with. Socially, it's like it kind of puts her off there. Like, oh, it makes her more attractive. People are looking seeing her for what she physically looks like, and not just her thick black glasses. And philosophically, it's like she does go through the conundrum of not wanting to wear the contacts and being reluctant to wear her glasses because she does find it appealing that people in a slightly different light. There's enough. There's a lot of interesting conflict and ideas there, and it's a great episode. It's an A. It's not an A tier. A plus is the old and the beautiful. This new spirit of volunteerism is mandatory at Lawndale High. While reading to senior citizens, Daria finds that her unenthusiastic tone makes her just as unpopular at the nursing home as it does at school. The episode where Brittany tries to teach Daria to sound peppy, and Daria asks about the squeak Brittany does, which really becomes noticeable. I believe I pointed out in the watch through that that squeak and Brittany's like upper pitch. It's a solid B tier episode. It's a wonderful idea. The fact that it ends with somebody at the reading home at the volunteer at the nursing home, loving the fact that Daria would be reading with them is pretty cool. But the road that Daria goes through was like have one person wanting to pull the plug on themselves because of how Daria sounds is it's just so damn hurtful. All right. Death takes a holiday. And in this imaginary tale, bullshit because freaking canon as far as I'm concerned. Daria is approached by Cupid and the St. Patrick's Day leprechaun who want to help him bring home the spirits of Christmas, Halloween, and Guy Fawkes Day back to Holiday Island. Uh this episode, oh, it's an S tier episode for me because of how batshit insane it is. You got Cupid zapping Helen and Jake, and they get the passion going. Which, trust me, Helen and Jake do not need any help getting the engine going with their love life, because that's been seen on numerous occasions. You get Gwen and Daria out of the health, Jake and Helen will get it on like Donkey Kong. All right. But the whole thing with the holidays, going into Holiday Island, and it's like, which is like, it's high school, and like Trent gets roped into the band that the Christmas, Halloween, and Guy Fawkes Day has formed. Um, it's it's just insane. The fact when they go to the Holiday Island and the school there, and the joke is like, oh, what are these like pale things? Oh, all the Saints days. It's like because if you as someone who's got thrown out of Catholic school, yes, there is a almost like a holiday or something for each individual saint, to some degree. And then you have All Saints Day, and there's like, oh, it's like all the saints are there too. But there are specific days that were marked for remembering or focusing on different saints and everything. At least at the Catholic school that I went to. Uh, but yeah, this episode is just insane, and the premise alone that kind of goes to show where Daria was in terms between this and the musical. It's it's no wonder why season 3 is often considered to be everyone's favorite season. And all right, Daria dance party. Gwen gets roped into organizing the school dance, but when her fashion club friends abandon her, she Bob's gives the job, hands the job off to Jane, who design of the gym is so great that Quinn rushes to take credit for it. Sandy tries to throw her own party. Upchuck is the DJ, and we everything. This is a solid A tier episode. On several fronts. There, the counterparty thing is almost straight out of what is it? Back to school, where you have the big dance that's happening, or like the party at the Mellon's dorm room, but that's a whole other thing there. But getting focusing on this episode, Upchuck at the DJ booth kind of steals the show. Then you have his two cousins that Daria and Jane almost like certainly they hit it off. And if it wasn't for the fact that they were cousins of Upchuck, they things could have certainly progressed further because again it is an episode where you have Daria actually interested in a guy to some extent. uh to Brittany and Kevin also have a fight and kind of cause some awkwardness between the football players and the cheerleaders, but it was uh that kind of is what it is there. um Also, thinking back, Sandy's party was so bad that everyone rushes out and goes to the big party, which is, if you think about it, if you want excuses as to why Sandy would have even more resentment, growing resentment towards Quinn, this is probably like the major cataclysm of that. The Lost Girls. Mr. O'Neill submits one of Daria's essays to a contest in a teen magazine, and she wins. Her prize is spending a day with the self-appointed editor of Val magazine. Oh boy. Uh, I'm sorry, it's a D tier. D tier, borderline F, because the fact that Daria almost it ends with Daria going off on Val and Val not realizing this how out of touch she is as a like 50, 60-year old acting like a teenager. And it ends with the articles as my day with D. I mean, it's basically Daria going off on Val's what's this episode for being F tier. Moving on. It happened one nut. Daria parent forced her to get a job, and her father finds her one at the peanut stand in the mall, and her coworker is Kevin. It's like the job. Daria is great at customer service, but the fact that she does not smile much uh, requires her results in her not having the customers not paying for the nuts. Like Kevin has a big smile, but he's dumb as a rock, and but Daria has the customer service skills oddly enough, but doesn't have like the big smiling personality. It's not a B tier episode. Uh, Brittany going off and assuming that that Kevin's hooking up with Daria again is kind of interesting there. Uh, Quinn also gets a job at a pet store, and things go horribly, horribly wrong. So there's a fine comedic undertone to this episode. but really not much there. It's kind of like here. Lane Miserables. The return of the rest of the Lane family sends Jane and then Trent to the Morgendorfers. But then but Trent goes off on a date with Monique, and that has Daria, questioning what what her relationship or future would be with Trent. Um, but and also basically drives home the fact to Daria that Trent is a bit of a deadbeat. Um, this is an episode what I'm talking about when I was talking about the Daria the musical episode. First off, this is a B tier episode on a number of different fronts. There, where Jake and Helen are more than comfortable taking in Trent and Jane. When it's like okay, and it's a fine coming around circle point with where okay Quinn, worst comes to worst, Quinn went to the Lane's house, and Trent and Jane need a place to go. They go to the Morgendorfer's house. You have this great scene where Helen acts like a proper mother figure to Trent, and Trent is like totally cool with the ground rules that Helen sets down. It's like because if you know anything about the Lanes, they're kind of like Trent and Jane's parents are kind of like really free spirited and loose. And so, but Trent responds well to Helen's form of parenting, even though Trent is like what in his like early 20s, I believe. This also has an episode, if memory serves me right. Uh, Quinn literally goes into Daria's room to get Jane, so she like for her advice on colors, and literally drags Jane out of Daria's room because, which goes to the fact that Quinn knows that Jane is an artist, obviously. Not just because she's Daria's friend, but because she, like the in Daria dance party, the whole Jane, did a wonderful job with the gym. Although if you look at what the Daria dance party, you can almost question that. But again, it's kind of it's a very interesting dynamic. It's not a B tier episode. There is enough there. It's not like it's truly an exceptional episode, but there is. I think what kind of undercooks it a bit is the fact that Daria has obviously the focus on Daria is like okay, realizing certain things about Trent and so forth. Jake of Hearts. When Jake has a heart attack, his mother comes to the Morgendorfer household to look after him. Quinn is inspired to study to become a cardiologist, and then you got two DJs broadcasting outside of Lawndale High, and Principal Lee's like encouraging it that hopefully will uh, like push for its Lawndale's popularity, school's popularity, and so forth. This is an A tier episode, borderline S tier. The radio disc jockey broadcasting out from Lawndale High like for a week and everything associated with that. This drag, I like that plot line to an extent, but it takes away uh the exceptionalness because everything that's focusing on Jake, him having the heart attack, his mother coming to visit him, the visit to help take care of him, the conflict that Jake's mother has with Helen, that she disapproves of Helen trying to trying to do her best. When once again, when Quinn's intelligence is also on display here, that she wants to become a cardiologist. She throws herself fully into it, and it shows her intelligence that she kind of gets. She gets it. She understands the seriousness of things. And the revelation that okay, we all know that Jake has issues with his father, but we realize that Jake's father was kind of a jerk to his mom too. There is. and then you have the heart to heart with um Jake wanting to do it, why Jake's the way he is, because he had that upbringing with his father. You have that scene between Daria and him at towards the end of the episode. Like I said, that's all exceptional stuff. And if it was not paired with the disc jockey episode side of it, I agree that for the comedy and the humor and stuff associated with it that serve as a counterbalance, I get it in terms of the B story, but it is a detriment to the more heavier stuff here. If the high school, if I could split the grade, I would, because the everything involving Jake in this episode, it is beyond S tier. Like if we would go beyond it, I will put it there because there is so much there that I absolutely love, but it gets dragged down. I would dare say this could potentially Jacob Hearts potentially could be my favorite episode just based on the Jake storyline. But it gets paired with this C at best B plot that it drags it down. It's like it drags it down to an A. That's a low grade as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, B trap. Daria gets her driver's license just before Jake and Helen head off on a go off for a marital retreat. Mystic, Spiral, and Jane are pulled over in some small town and get thrown in jail. Daria and Quinn go on a road trip, and you actually have them spending time together in a car. They pick up a hitchhiker that more or less scams them, and then Daria and Quinn almost like go to a bar and like hustle to get some money back because Quinn picked up enough on the southern like the country euphemisms and so forth. I probably got that wrong, but but this is an A tier episode. Everything clicks in this episode perfectly with uh with Daria and Quinn, going on a road trip. They're in a confined space together, and ironically, they don't get killed. The money getting stolen. Quinn giving the bail money to the hitchhiker, forcing Daria and Quinn to it's like Quinn to make good on it is just perfect. It is perfectly placed there in terms of nice character building between the two sisters. But the payoff here is uh Mystic Spiral having to play a kids party and actually doing a pretty damn good job of it too. It it's this wonderful A tier episode. There's not enough there to push it up into the S tier, but there's not enough to drag it down. And there's nothing in this episode to drag it down. Uh, the Lawndale File. Secret Service agents visit Lawndale High and urge students to keep an eye out for students that might be different and thus threaten their safety, as well as the safety of their country. The thought of aliens. Daria and Jane are suspects 1 and 2. A whole bunch of weirdness going on. Quinn is wearing like an all black ensemble because she has something on her neck. Mr. DiMartino's being the one that basically was called in on by Mrs. Barch. Uh, because of her ongoing hatred of men, with the exception of Mr. O'Neill. This is sorry. It's like start reflecting on it, like months later. It's like, oh boy, it's a weird episode. Kind of fits the theme when you think of, some of the other episodes in this episode was kind of weird, but it's it's not one that I would want to rewatch. Yes, add water. Daria and Jane are forced to attend a casino night cruise fundraiser on a low budget ship I figured the best use of that time would be to catch up on sleep after watching the like a Six Sad World marathon. This is the episode. Mr. DiMartino has a gambling addiction. The ship captain is a drunk, and the ship crashes, and everything turns into an episode of Titanic, or a parody of Titanic. Um, there was only one lifeboat that came loose with Kevin and Brittany, thanks to Kevin and Brittany who are making out on it, and they are marooned somewhere. But the it turns out the waterline wasn't really all that deep. Um, I, hmm, you know what? D tier. Ooh, I know they said there was one episode in season 5 that I want to put down in the F tier, but I'm really thinking about just add water. Um, there's some laugh out loud moments, but yeah. Wow, I said there was going to be one episode, and it was season 5 that for sure that was going to be in the F tier. I think just add water is like, yeah, it goes there. Can't think I can't think of anything off the top of my head I would say that I would really like about this episode. Like, not much in the way of positivity. Like, with like again with in comparison to like the Long Death file, that episode is just weird. This head of water is just bad. Jane's addiction. Daria and Jane's multimedia project for English class hits a snag when Trent, who agreed to do the music, completely slacks off. And also Daria starts having concerns because Tom is introduced and starts to date Jane. Much as I don't like the Tom, it's the B tier episode. And it's an episode that certainly serves as like okay, we have a rift between Daria and Jane because Tom is introduced potentially as a one-shot character. Little did we know that he will stick around for the remaining 2 seasons. And basically have the same relationship with both Daria and Jane, for funny enough. It's an interesting contrast here where Daria starts feeling to being like where she has a duo, and but suddenly she becomes a third wheel. So it's an interesting dynamic there. Trent doesn't come through in a positive light there because of his he promises to do something but doesn't get it done. Funny enough, that aspect, that part of Trent's character where he does not get something done does full circle with the whole gazebo incident. Now that I think about it, but it's a B tier episode, solid way to end season 3. You introduce a new character that will be very important for the rest of the series. Things go from there. Uh, Onward to season 4. Partners complain. Daria, Jane, Brittany, and Kevin all have like spats with each other, or in terms of their pairings, and decide not to work on an economics project together. Thus, Daria works with Jody, Jane with Brittany, Kevin with Mac, and all 3 pairs face, all different issues. And only 2 of the groups actually remember to work together on the project. It's a in comparison to season it, in terms of like giving us odd couple pairings, it's not a strong opener because Daria and Jody, with there is a fairly decent level of working along there, but it doesn't quite come to fruition. Jane and Brittany, I think remember something right. They kind of work well together as a duo. And Kevin and Mac, are Kevin and Mac. They are like Kevin's gonna get on Mac's terms. It's like, hey, Mac Daddy, don't call me that. Why not? I'm the QB. Not the exact quotes, but that's the relationship that those two have. So nothing really new there that stands out. But it's like, okay, it's a season opener. It gets the ball rolling, and it does advance like on the riff that between Daria and Jane that was from the season finale of season 3. Antisocial climbers. Mr. O'Neill organizes an overnight camping trip to the woods. Inspired by their current assignment, Daria and Jane anticipate the worst, which turns out to be correct when the group gets stranded by a snowstorm with no provisions. Thanks in part to Quinn having the three J's carry her bags when they were supposed to be carrying the food and stuff. Jake and Helen go out to a cabin to rekindle the romance, and only to end up with Mr. DiMartino when he goes out to try and find help. And also, Mr. O'Neill gets left behind. Mrs. March shows how strong she is by literally carrying him. Uh, this is an A episode. There is a lot of comedy there. Mr. DiMartino going off with Daria, and Jane that go find help, and then falling off a cliff, ending up with Jake and Helen, and they end up playing charades. Is it's pretty interesting there. I remember thinking back, it's like, wait, Jake and Helen is like I remember having issues with the Jake and Helen like rekindling their waning romance. No, the romance in their life is there. Is that that's a J. Jake and Helen. Helen is a workaholic. She is very career driven. We have seen numerous times, especially up until this point in the series, where like when her boss Eric calls at the law firm, Helen puts everything on hold to deal with whatever crisis or that is happening. At the same time, Jake is, he's Jake. He's very high strung, and um but there is an episode that kind of like explains that that he would be a lot worse if Helen was any other way. It's an A-tier episode. Quinn kind of having to face some consequences for her own vainness is a fine subplot or a fine plot point here. Pretty cool. Let's see. A tree grows in Lawndale. Uh, Daria talks Kevin into buying a motorcycle when he sees them buying a leather jacket. No, he was wearing a leather jacket. Um, but he gets a moped, and he gets goaded into performing a stunt and crashes into a tree, spraining his knee and shattering his self confidence. This is without question probably the best use of Kevin, of him being a star athlete, and that his entire life revolves around being the quarterback of Lawndale High. He never takes off his pads or anything of that sort. Which actually, when you see him without his, we do see him without his pads before in like the model episode, but um, that he tries to have that confidence, and he becomes a motivational speaker. It's and it kind of it's in like the most growth Kevin ever sees as a character, but at the same time, but we don't really see him reach these levels. It's like the best use of him, and it's a shame that he doesn't really evolve anymore as a character. Unlike everybody, granted, not many characters see character evolution. See growth. Because Kevin's kind of needed to be the extremely dumb jock, but it's a real shame um, that there is not much more to him. But again, it's a very fine episode. It's a solid B tier episode. I didn't really like that it points out that with Kevin not on the field, it means that okay, yes, the Lawndale the football team plays badly. We expect that. But then it says like, oh, because they have a losing football team, that means like everyone else suffers for it. Like the fashion club being able to get customer service at their favorite store because they go to a school with a losing football team is kind of silly and it kind of hurts the episode. Murdered she snored. Wait a second. No. Wait. I think these episodes no, there's 65 things here. Did these out of order? Hold up. Hold up here. Something seems kind of off here because this is the one here. Okay, so some of these thumbnails are certainly are these thumbnails are not matching up correctly. And I just realized it. All right, Die, My Darling, Fire, Fine Angel, Legends of the Mall, Heart of Darkness, Psycho. This is psychotherapy. Human Happy of Human Bonding. That's how I know the parade. Yeah, I kind of feel like they no eight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 17, 8 in the two movies. Hold up here. So 7. Okay, so they got the wrong thumbnails here. So Murder She Snore. Okay, I can't tell off the top of my head which one is supposed to be it. So a cheating scale in Mr. DiMartino's class is fodder for Daria's nightmares, where she dreams that she is accused of killing Kevin. The suspect linger and endures one weird scenario after another based on various TV murder mystery shows. Yeah. So it's a interesting. All right, so this episode it is a A tier episode. I'm just not sure what thumbnail are we supposed to use for it because I can't quite fully remember. Okay, this is a few. Oh wait, no. Okay, I recognize things here, so I need literally I have to figure out which one is which here. Die, My Darling, Fire, Groped by an Angel, Legends of the Mall, Heart of Darkness, Psychotherapy, I Know the Parade, Of Human Bonding, the F Word. So, okay, it must be this one here. So, what did I say? I said it's A tier episode for Murder She Snored. It's an episode where things get weird. It's like the whole murder aspect of with a lot of murder TV shows, like Murder She Wrote. I remember being one of the parodies of it. The fact that everyone has a reason to kill Kevin, specifically from Mr. DiMartino, in particular, certainly stands out. It's a fine, weird episode, and I'm sorry for the delay here. The F word. Mr. O'Neill encourages his class to pick something to fail at for personal growth, but all they get is misery, grief, and despair. Daria may be forced to supervise Quinn at an upcoming mall fashion exhibit, and Jane is becoming popular enough to replace Brittany as cheerleader. Uh, ooh, certainly a B tier episode. Daria, Jane as a cheerleader in and of its own that will make it an A tier. Because she's actually becomes quite good at it. As a reminder, Jane is an athlete, and she envisioned that she would end up dating if she becomes a cheerleader. That we would date Kevin, and because of the social circles, and that's what drives her to not want to be a cheerleader. Um, but there is it's an entirely fine premise with how everything just backfires in a way there that's just absolutely hilarious. It's 10 a.m. You have an idea how long this is going, especially with the delay involving the fact that these thumbnails were not matching up correctly. As I realized it. Again, I didn't create the tier list here. I found it on Tier List Maker. Next. Of human bonding. Jake is excited to attend a franchising conference, hoping to meet a genius. But when Helen is unable to attend, Daria goes in her place. Uh, this is an A tier episode. You got Helen basically hosting the supervising a sleepover involving the fashion club. You have Jake being almost overwhelmed by this uh genius franchise genius businessman. Daria goes with them, and you have another great Daria and Jake scene and talking to one another. I was like, that father daughter bonding. It was like where Jake and Daria have like their time at at the table where they read the paper together and everything. Ending up with Jake being stuck in a balloon. That Jake has a feel of heights. It's a all in all, it's a perfect episode that kind of gives all the Morgendorfers something to do. Um, Psychotherapy. The Morgendorfers attend a weekend retreat at the Quiet in Mental Health Spa to be evaluated as Helen is being considered for promotion. This is another S tier episode, heavily Morgendorfer focus. You have the whole thing with Jane setting up her webcam, becoming a social media darling, and an influencer, and embarrassing Tom in the process. But this is the episode where Helen realizes a lot about herself. There, like Quinn crushes on one of the doctors and gets hypnotized into, she represses into thinking he is like Cleopatra. Or maybe she was Cleopatra. No, it's established that she was Cleopatra in a past life. Jake finally gets a chance to air his grievances, and Helen basically realizes that she's not underappreciated, but that but she has a way of like of making of undermining Jake a lot of the time, and we do see that, like Helen certainly well, and it's the conversation that Helen has with Daria in the parking lot of the spa regarding, like what Helen's role in the family is very touching and very heartwarming, and it's again it's an S tier episode. It's Art of Darkness. The new discount warehouse somehow becomes the central location for everything in this episode. Daria and Jane and everybody else end up there for one reason or another. Daria needs a blue lace. Jane needs new gummy bears. Uh, Kevin and Brittany are off to get some hot dogs. The power goes out. It's a Mr. O'Neill tries to talk to Kevin's father about like Kevin's future, and things go wrong. Mr. DiMartino fights over cheese logs. Tom goes also ends up there with Trent, and you see Tom being very much irritated with Trent with the bandmates because Tom eats gummy bears. It's a nice hodgepodge episode, but it's a C tier. It's got a lot of people ending up in the same location with all sorts of things there. Again, it's an episode that gets a lot of characters getting. One of the things I said during the course of season 4, was that there was a sudden uptick in the use of a lot of characters to get them as much screen time as possible to make sure that their personalities were well defined because of Is It Fall Yet? Because Is It Fall Yet gives a lot of you're talking about like a movie something that's like 75 to 90 minutes in length, and so not all these secondary like you got your main characters, your B characters, but then you have like your C tier characters, those who just pop up maybe in one episode from time to time, either in the background or that they have like they have a one note personality. And you want to make sure you have all these different characters like established and give them something that so when you see them and Is It Fall Yet? You for like new viewers, you would have an idea as or as a reminder to a lot of the rest of the audience, like how certain characters were. Um, the Mart of Darkness certainly it's a fine episode that gives a lot of character screen time. Legends of the Mall. The Fashion Club tells suburban legends to pass the time while they're stranded in a bad part of town. The tale of the rattling girl about a 1960s teenager who starved herself so much that people could hear her bones as she danced. Metal Mouth about an angry 1980s metal shop teacher whose new dentures forced him to sing "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." And The House of the Bad Grades about a 1950s version of Daria whose death from being locked in a bomb shelter causes future residents of her old house to mysteriously flunk high school. This is an S tier episode. It is essentially the Twilight Zone of sorts, not the Twilight Zone, but the equivalent of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. Legends of the Mall. If not that MTV would ever have allowed Daria to be on the air long enough to where something could be a reoccurring special. Legends of the Mall certainly would be it because it's three individual stories, all told. They're horror stories to a large extent. This is an episode that certainly stands out on the box set because it actually has an like, a clip of "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" is actually played, while a lot of the other licensed music from Daria is removed on the complete series box set. That certainly stands out there. This is a fun. It's a strong departure from the norm, and it's kind of interesting. I'm looking at this like how many weird episodes. It's the second like weird episode, truly weird episode that ends up in the S tier. But this episode stands out because it's not another episode that's truly like it in terms of like stories being told. Groped by. Wait, I missed one. Oh shit, we missed I Love the Parade because of all everything else there. I Love the Parade. On an errand for her father, Daria, to get toilet paper, Daria runs into her school's annual parade, where she encounters a lost child from pinch sitter. We mentioned that before, and it has a spends a lot of time with Tom during the course of this episode. It's an A tier episode, as I realized we skipped over it because again they couldn't use the proper thumbnails when they put together this tier listing. Again, I did not create the tier list and or select the images here, folks. It's a fine episode. You got the whole thing with the fashion club on the float. As a matter of fact, that the scene of the fashion club on the float is what I used for the thumbnail for the season 4 episodes, because I figure it's like the most iconic thing from it in terms of like a visual. Uh, there, what keeps it from being an A tier is that I don't like Tom as a character. I truly don't. I don't like Tom. And like Tom is the worst thing about the episode, but I can't deny him trying to get along with Daria and the fact that they spend the time together and this moves out a lot of the tension between the two of them and it's builds towards like them hooking up. It's kind of like the tipping the going off point for that. All right, so getting back to it, groped by an angel, Quinn becomes a believer in guardian angels after watching a television special about them. And although Daria remains skeptical, she is unable to convince Quinn after a series of events seems to validate Quinn's belief. This is a C episode. I mean, for a Quinn focused episode, and I feel bad for putting it down at a C tier because she's the central figure of it. But I'm someone who is a complete, skeptic on a lot of things, and so I kind of like side with Daria's point of view. But you have the moment there where Helen tries tells Daria is like not to like do anything or say anything to undermine what Quinn is feeling or what she or what Quinn is exploring, and Daria Quinn have a nice moment, but I can't justify putting it up higher. I can't move it up higher because I don't really like the plot, but there is enough there to make it a nice, fine episode. You can like I can sit and watch it. It's like okay, cool. Like and then my justifying with that is like I can watch the episode without having to like think commentary and just enjoy it for what it is, as opposed to at least two episodes. One episode that's already in the F tier. I just had water, and another episode to be added fairly soon. Fire. The Morgendorfers must temporarily stay in a hotel after Jake causes a house fire. But Daria decides to stay with Jane, but the growing relationship with Tom and Jane's suspicions and jealousy start coming in, and Jane's own concerns. It's a B tier episode, to put it mildly. There is enough there in the episode to justify it. It's you got the through line of Tom and Jane's relationship. Jane getting increasingly paranoid and concerned and about things that are what she suspects is happening, and that doesn't really happen until after the fact. But again, I don't like Tom as a character, but I understand why. But you have to have that rift between Daria and Jane to make it work for him to like. 'Cause you have the rift between Daria and Jane over Tom, over him dating Daria, and then you have it where Daria gets unintentional in the middle because she and Tom, like smoothed out a lot of their own issues and yada yada yada. So that brings us to Die, Die, My Darling. Jane's latest artistic endeavor is to paint tiger stripes in her hair. She recruits Daria's assistants, and botching the job gets her in hot water with Jane, but is her encounter with Tom that might be the biggest mistake of her life. AKA, oh, like I said, there's a big part of me that hates this episode, but it's an A. It is most certainly A tier. Like my instinct on Jane alone. Jane puts Daria in a position that Daria does not want to be in terms of paint of dyeing her hair. Like if Jane wants to dye her hair, you will go to Quinn, not Daria. So Quinn intentionally causes and the tipping point here. The the entire moment of of Tom and Daria kissing in his car. Like, yes, that's an oh shit moment. But Jane, to a large extent, brings it on herself. And Jane is so she is right and to an extent, to a very small extent, Jane is right in terms of her suspicions. But she should be having taken this out on Tom and not Daria, because like Daria Daria was certainly not pursuing Tom to any extent. So, but yeah, like I hate how Jane comes across in Fire and Die Die My Darling. It's Jane at her lowest point as a character, but it's needed for the plot. I get it, but it's kind of funny there. There's like one is like lay Fire lays the groundwork. I can consider that there and what stuff there between Jane and Daria as being like as a B tier, and then it escalates to an A tier. All right. Gonna jump down here. Is it fall yet? Daria, whose friendship with Jane is still straining from the events of Die Die My Darling, spends the summer working at Mr. O'Neill's day camp for sensitive kids. While struggling with her new relationship with Tom, Jane spent times at an artist camp, where someone who is older than her tries to seduce her, and Quinn works with a tutor to improve her grades. Um, and and we got a whole bunch of the rest of the cast doing different things. Mac is working as an ice cream truck driver. Jody is an assistant for working for us, a clearly a Republican congressman. Kevin and Brittany do lifeguard duty. Without question, isn't fall yet is S tier for me because number one, it continues the plot line of Daria and Jane's relationship. There you go. Are They are in two different places, and they get the resolution of it. Uh like where they have like a heart to heart. When Daria goes and Trent goes up to like the art colony, the art camp where Jane is. Mr. DiMartino ripping a fucking sink out off the wall and chucking it through a window will never not be funny because I consider that to be in my journey. That's my favorite scene in the entire series. I will. I it, this. It, I would say it gets an S tier just on that scene alone, but no, it's entirely true there. This is this because Is It Fall Yet is very important to Quinn's development as a character. She develops a crush on her tutor who has no interest in her because he points out the flaws in her character, but at the same time, Quinn. It's a wake up call to Quinn, and you have the moment at the towards the end of the film where Quinn acts, answers one of Mr. DiMartino's questions. Matter of fact, the same question that Daria answered in way back in the Steamers. Funny enough, and Quinn after like 4 seasons of Quinn, coming up with excuses as relates. It's like, oh, that's her, his cousin or maid or whatever. It's like she's not really my sister. Fully openly admits that Quinn is that Daria is her sister. Much to Sandy's chagrin, Sandy and Tiffany were just being polite about it, like they knew, and but Sandy acting like it's no big controversial deal. It's a very there's a lot there to unpack. Um, and you get a lot of characters getting a lot of screen time, which is wonderful. All right, on to season 5, and this has certainly taken like long ways here. Is Ed, despite Daria and Jane's problems, protests rather, Principal Lee's makes a sponsorship deal with a soda company for Lawndale High that gets ridiculously out of hand. It's the weakest of the season openers, without question. The whole school sponsorship thing and having to drink all the soda is like it's great from Principal Lee's meltdown at the very end and her smashing sodas. Uh, but it's it's the weakest season opener by far. Um, and again, much like how like Daria going off on Val um keeps that episode out of the F tier. It's basically Principal Lee's meltdown at the end of his dead there. Sappy anniversary. Tom seems to have forgotten his and Daria's 6 months anniversary, which Quinn points out to Daria, who has also not taken note. Daria is unsure if she's upset herself or Tom, and Jake is in over his head as with working for a internet startup company. It's an episode. Jake's B plot here does not age particularly well. It's certainly an embodiment of the .com era of like the early 2000s, like with the like all the internet startup companies. uh, the Simpsons did also an episode as well on it, where where the toilet paper is literally just a stock. It's this is a fine it's a fine A tier episode. It was like Daria and Tom's relationship. Daria like exploring the relationship in different aspects. Quinn kind of like being there for her and like they letting her know like some of the ground rules that she herself abides by too in terms of dating someone. Although I don't think Quinn has ever dated somebody for 6 months, unless you count dating the three J. Wait, dating all three? I'm raising so many questions there. She's dating like those three simultaneously. Well, we just don't know. But there is enough there in the episode. It's like, yeah, there's a lot of heavy stuff that kind of like stands out. And again, it's Daria's evolution as a character. Bent like me, Sandy falls down a flight of stairs and breaks her leg and gains weight. She is too embarrassed to return to school for, which leads to Quinn volunteering to coach Sandy's back into shape. And it's oddly enough, it's an S tier episode. It's a fantastic episode. It's a Quinn focused episode. And to and much like a tree grows along day, where you think like, okay, this is gonna be like Kevin's like where Kevin peaks as the character. This is where Sandy peaks. Um, because it's Sandy at her most vulnerable. Um, but it's amazing like how much of like if you kind of wish that there was a little bit more continuity from episode to episode with a lot of like the lower tiered characters in terms of the but Sandy has a role to play within the framework of the show where yeah she can't really be less passive aggressive towards Quinn, but the fact that Quinn goes out of her way to get Sandy back in shape and it is fantastic. Uh, I didn't particularly care for Daria and Jane betting on whether the fashion club will break up or stay together or whatnot. But the stuff with Quinn and Sandy more than compensate for that. Camp Fear. Daria and Quinn attend a reunion at their old summer camp, Camp Grizzly. Quinn looks forward to reconnecting with old acquaintances, but Daria has nothing but bad memories of the place. And Trent is thinking of breaking up Mystic Spiral. But is inspired because he and Jane gets go to a like a rustic couple, like a country bumpkins store and whatnot. Tries a whole bunch of stuff. This is a B tier episode. Which I know folks are gonna say is like the whole Camp Grizzly stuff, and it's great. The guy who made his entire life to be around the summer camp and being extra motivated and stuff. It's so fucking irritating. Um, just thinking about it makes me want to pull what's left of my hair out. Um, Daria just like again just want to be off on her own and read, and you have this other camper like trying to connect with her, but Daria wants none of it. The revelation that Quinn stole someone's boyfriend and has to get her own way back home is quite interesting. Her facing some comeuppance for her man stealing ways, and the whole thing with Trent and Jane and the old couple who was. There is one funny moment there with the old couple. One like the old man is like filling up a bottle of water. Like, yes, this is from our spring, and it's straight up tap water. It's it's is what it is there. The story of D. Daria submits a short story for publication despite her misgivings about the tale's quality. Mr. O'Neill sees her mailing it, mentioning it in class, and suddenly the news is all over school, but much to Daria's chagrin. And she essentially gets rejected for her story gets turned down. The fashion club create a newsletter that they sell, but things go like their predictions of what will be fashionable and the turns out to be very wrong. Hate to say it. This is a deep episode. Um, Daria facing rejection for her story. Like Daria putting herself out there is fine. It's a good idea, but I don't think it's executed particularly well with this episode. And you try and pair it up with the Fashion Club's newsletter that they want to do. That they're the whole thing is that they're giving fashion advice that they want to get a plaque for like being charitable. Um, but uh, but then you have their predictions and their tips like backfiring when they see that what they think is going to be trending is not what's being publicized in the fashion magazine. What would have elevated this episode is either the Daria A plot with her handling the rejection being handled a lot better than it was, or if the fashion club, had some realization that if they're setting trends for Lawndale, like for the students at Lawndale, um, then the realizes like okay, they can set their own trends. They don't have to follow the stuff that they take out of the magazines, but they're so engrossed with what's popular and trending in the fashion magazines that kind of like overrides what they think is, and it kind of like cuts them at the knees, which really sucks there because I kind of feel that could have like elevated this episode to at least a C tier, but the, but it's that is what it is there. Lucky strike. When Lawndale High faculty goes on strike, Miss Lee hires temporary replacements to keep the school running. When forced to get rid of the substitute English teacher because of behavior involving a student, Miss Lee recruits his replacement of the mother who's responsible for him getting him fired, which is Daria. Naturally, this leads to embarrassing Quinn, because Daria is essentially teaching her class, and it's a breakout moment for not this uh Quinn, but also you got the three J's. Always one of them actually getting a good grade here, as because the subject of what they're covering is Romeo and Juliet. At least some one of the fashion club members realizes, oh, at least you get points for realizing that it's a movie that featured Leonardo DiCaprio at the one time, I believe. And then Daria, uh, like having the choice, being in a position where she could flunk Quinn, but puts her in a position where she could earn a good grade on her own merits. Uh, and then you have the entire strike situation. Mr. DiMartino going in to negotiate with Principal Lee and actually being successful as the head of the teachers union. But you have like Mr. O'Neill and Trent being paired up as characters because Mr. O'Neill remembers Trent is like and recruits him to help create a strike song. And there's this great moment where Trent looks at him and is like, "If you're not going to take this seriously, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna leave." It's an oddball pairing. You only get it once, but it works so well. Uh, this is an S tier episode. It it's there's not much I can say that's like a negative about it. Artburn. Jane gets a job making replicas of established paintings, but grows good at this interferes with her artistic creativity. Certainly a Jane heavy episode. Exploring her artistic endeavors in terms of her selling out, and but in certain the scene that where they go to Brittany's place and the father who Brittany's father bought one of Jane's duplicates, but was able to point out everything that was wrong with it. But it's a C tier episode. It's an okay episode. Not too much. There's not much great about it, but there's not much negative about it. So it's like it kind of like goes there. It's like it's in the middle. One Jane at a time. Quinn decides she needs a steady boyfriend. Jake attempts to catch a squirrel that has been getting into the garbage, and Daria is afraid to act on her mother's suggestion of inviting Tom over for dinner because she is unsure of how he will react to her family, even though uh, Tom has kind of seen her family a lot at this point in time. Uh, this is it's an A episode. It has certainly life laugh out loud moments, particularly with Jake versus the Square is awesome. Then you have like Jeffrey or Jamie, one of them, not Joey. It's Jamie. Jamie and joining Tom. One of the Jays and Tom joining Jake and catching the squirrel, and then going off to release it into the woods, and then going go kart riding is one of the most surreal endings one would want to see in this series. And it leads to my entire thing there that if Jake was paired up with more like some of the male characters on a regular basis, he probably would have mellowed. We would have seen Jake a lot more mellowed over the course of the series because Jake gets along. Jake and Trent have the same vibe. Jake obviously gets along with Tom, at least one of the Jays that that Quinn brings over for dinner. So it totally works out there, and it's a wonderful episode. You don't, so yeah. So moving on. Life in the past lane. Jane meets and begins dating a boy named Nathan who is into retro fashion, and seeing them have fun causes Daria to wonder if she and Tom have fallen into a rut. Keep in mind that uh, one of the reasons for a lot of excuse me, Jane and Tom's problems is that they fell into a rut, which they straight up and it upset in an earlier episode. Jane is too obsessed with retro topics and criticizes Jane over her making some wardrobe mistakes. Upchuck's prowess with magic and sleight of hand fashion, gets Stacy's attention, who assists him with a fashion show. This is Stacy's coming out party as a character. Stacy is often being like overly dramatic, crying, and so um and it's no, there's wait, there's also a previous episode, I forget which one. I think it was One J at a Time, the ending of it with no, not it, but Artburn. I forgot to mention it there. Stacy gets keeps these character character piece of the fashion club because of how she's depicted in it. Anyway, back to life in the past lane. This ends up being very much a B tier episode that is elevated heavily by the Stacy and Upchuck pairing. Uh, the Jane Nathan dynamic is kind of fine. It's like the outfits Jane gets put in also does a lot of heavy lifting for the main story. Daria and Tom, like, realize, are they in the rut and falling into the same trappings that ruined like Tom and Jane's relationship? That's being a concern. Although that is not directly referenced, um, the pattern is there. But the pairing of Stacy and Upchuck, again, stylistically, in terms of how the characters appear, they certainly work together nicely. The whole magic act and taking of uh of Upchuck being locked in a box for and then pretending that he's locked and that she can't that he can't get out and everything, but only to be revealed he did get out and he's at the back at the auditorium is very clever. The question is where was where would the trapdoor would have been? That's the question. That's the huge question there. Where the hell would a trapdoor would have been, and would it have been underneath where the box was placed? Because I don't think that there was ever indication that there would have been a trapdoor on that stage. Now that I'm thinking back to it. And also the scene where Upchuck and Mr. DiMartino are working together to scam Mr. O'Neill. I mean, I mean, we've seen Upchuck a lot, and he has not gotten a lot of he's not get a lot of screen time. But him being we know, yes, he's a bit of a sleazeball. We appreciate him for that. But he's a DJ. He is a connoisseur of vintage adult content. He is a magician. So Upchuck has another thing that is likable about him, and we got to see Stacy break out away from the fashion club for at least an episode, and it kind of shows her personality a lot more. She is a lot more confident than it appears, and again, this is will be relevant when we once again talk about is it college yet? When we place that one in the tier list, but feel I certainly feel it's basically Stacy's coming out party. Kind of funny that we don't really see that with Tiffany at all. Sandy has her one episode earlier in in season 5, and Stacy gets hers, but Tiffany never does. Aunt nauseum. When Daria's Aunt Rita visits because she comes over to because Daria and Quinn's cousins is getting divorced, only to end up back together. Having guilt. Uh, but anyway, when Daria's Aunt Rita visits after having guilted Helen into representing Rita's daughter in a prospective divorce, the two sisters dredge up old grudges Jake goes into hiding. Daria calls in on Amy to referee, but Amy gets sucked into the fight, leaving Daria and Quinn to do damage control. At the same time, the Fashion Club state again another Stacy focused episode with Tiffany and Stacy and Tiffany are feuding over both having the same dress, and Quinn is kind of seeing conflict on two sides. Of it, and Quinn's going through it in a bad way. This, without question, is an S tier episode. There, there's not even a debate about it. The entire build up with Rita and Helen's their argument and their bickering, and then Amy arriving, then being drawn right into it, is simply fantastic because the payoff is Daria and Quinn acting out, showing how awful their their mother and their aunts are being to each other, and it's kind of like the culmination, like the ultimate example of how far Daria and Quinn's relationship evolved over the course of the series, from where there is some there's a clear antagonistic behavior from an attitude that they have towards each other. But over the course of 5 seasons, Daria and Quinn's relationship certainly improves to the point where they can have this almost epiphany. It's like this perfect sisterly moment that if they figured it out, like there's no reason why Helen, Rita, and Amy could not have figured it out years ago. Then we get the prize fighters. Fuck that episode. Fuck this episode in every shape, way, or forms. While while just add water is just bad from start to finish. Right. Prize fighters, and yes, this is very much still fresh in my mind. Right. This tier list video is being recorded on April 11th, 2025. I watched that episode at the time of the recording literally 5 days ago, and it still is sour on my brain. Fuck this episode and the entire premise of Daria going for the scholarship. Fine, good idea on paper. But the whole premise is like, oh, she tells Jody about it, and then Jody applies, and it's like Daria's feeling slighted. It's like, why did you apply? Well, I didn't think you were going to apply. And then it also it also chops the legs off of Upchuck of being very much trying to be a entrepreneurial kiss ass. Which, okay, Upchuck does have like yes, we do kind of see at times he kind of can be a bit of a kiss ass over the course of some of his early appearances, but like Daria, Upchuck, and Jody are done absolutely no favors whatsoever in this episode. It's undoubtedly worse than uh, than Just Add Water. The Just Add Water is just bad on its own merits, right? Because it's like kind of see what we're doing with that episode, trying to set up for a Titanic parody when that was relevant. Prize Fighters is just no, 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 no. Um, and one would think is like and Daria's even speech at the end and like the interview portion of it, uh, is can't even get this episode out of the F tier. Unlike uh oh boy, when we think of it, it's been nearly 2 hours, folks. So you have to work with me here. Uh, the Lost Girls. There we go. Season 3. It's like I totally forgot the episode. The Lost Girls at least has the speech at the end of that, in terms of Daria being like, the way she is and being frustrated with it, trying to be overly. in when everybody else is bending over backwards for Val, because she's the editor of a magazine. Um, Daria's speech at the end of Prize Fighters is like it's not enough. It's not enough to elevate it because she's basically told, well, that's the spoof that she submitted is like indicated that she would be totally different, and it's like boy, way to totally like undercut a character. Finding at Daria's. Each having been reading for hours, Tom and Daria eventually fall asleep. Thus, they sleep with each other on her bed in a non physical fashion. Spreading rumors that they're sexually active. Daria considers having doing the wild mambo with Tom, but changes her mind and stands him up. And this is an A tier episode. A lot of subject matter there. Daria's anxiety. I talked about that literally in my case of doing this is it was literally 2 days ago where I was talking about this episode. At the time of relation of when I was recording it, Daria's facial reactions in it um certainly does a lot there to her anxiety, her concern, her self-doubt over what she do, what she should not do. um it certainly elevates it. It certainly makes him a justification here where Daria and Tom could have broken up here over this entire thing, particularly with how she stands him up. Eh, Granted, he was a bit creepy because he had candles and he had flowers ready. He was ready. He was going to go all out there. But at the same time, you have to realize, like, um, like he clearly had his hopes up. Tom clearly had his hopes up. Daria, the Quinn spreading the rumor to Stacy, and telling Stacy, and knowing Stacy's clearly has a blabbermouth, which really isn't established. But oh, Stacy found out, and then Daria getting back at Quinn, uh, in a subtle fashion, and spreading a rumor about her. It's a nice little under current there to the episode. And also as a reminder of just how chill Jake is with Tom, is like he doesn't really Jake when he wakes up at 4 in the morning to have lasagna. Sees Tom like heading out is like he's like, oh, it's sometimes that door jams on me too, and lets him out. And then uh, if there was one thing issue I still have I take with this episode is Jake tells Helen, oh, it's just all Tom. And it's like, oh, she realizes what time it is. She bolts up. She goes to Daria's room, and the entire idea that Helen and Daria were talking for like who knows how many hours, because it's clearly 4 in the morning. It is the dead of night where Helen barges into Daria's room, and when we next see him, it's daytime. Like, how many hours were they talking? Because it boggles the mind there. All right, boxing Daria. Uh, it goes S tier. I'm saying this here. I do consider boxing Daria to be a bit overrated because of where a lot of people see the episode. When you have a lot of people talk about this episode, they don't really dive into the fact that Daria is remembering. Well, the plot of the episode: a large refrigerator box revives painful memories in Daria, that suggests that she is a burden on her parents by being herself. But what is forgotten there is that this whole thing also brings back up memories. Quinn also remembers the night of a big fight between Jake and Helen, where Jake stormed out, and that fight was about Daria. Uh, that does not get brought up a lot when people talk about this episode. Uh, and the fact that Quinn also has that trauma, that Quinn reminds Jake and Helen about what happened. It's like why would Daria be so concerned about this refrigerator box? Uh, and then you have Daria going back into it, and then you get the big revelation of of what happened, and you have the touching moment that Quinn put that refrigerator box in Daria's room with a note saying, like, not sure if you need this or not. This it's here for you. That Quinn goes that way, but then you realize half a good chunk of this episode is being told as a flashback because the opening of the episode is you hear car, you hear tire screeching and the of a car crashing. And the dude saying, "Hey, are you right? Are you right?" And then you get the revelation that, oh, it's Daria that gets in, that's in an accident, that she kind of like skids on the road. Like there's an accident when she just storms out between after an argument of sorts between her, Jake, and Helen. She nearly gets into a car wreck. And then she calls Jane, and Jane is like Daria. We see Daria at her most vulnerable here, where she literally gets up from a table to hug Jane as soon as Jane arrives. You never see Daria do that. So all these particular aspects is what makes this an S tier episode. It's like these wonderful character moments. And for like the final episode of season 5, it's a very strong finish, which leads us into, is it college yet? With high school graduation nearing, Daria must choose what college to go to and whether or not she should continue her relationship with Tom. Jane considers foregoing college after schools that she was not interested in attending to in the first place reject her. Quinn gets a job at a restaurant where a new friend is having a drinking problem. Kevin tries to keep Brittany from knowing that he's going to have to repeat his senior year. Jody is pressured into going to an elite college, uh, into a particular college at her parents' behest instead of the one she really wants to go to. And Mr. DiMartino tries to teach Mr. O'Neill to stand up for himself to Mrs. Barch after Mrs. Barch misunderstood. So Mr. O'Neill thinking that she is interested in marrying her, which potentially is and everything. But boy, hate to do it, but is it college yet? Is B tier. So a lot of great things here, and but what went wrong with Is It College Yet? Um, the pacing really. Well, the version that I saw is the edited version that has stuff cut out of it. We actually in the reaction video that we go through and like we find out what was cut out. It's like, okay, there's actually quite a things cut out, and like, oh, certain jokes are tightening up. The entire scene between Mac and Jody's father gets the actual balls of that scene get cut off, compared to what was in the original version and what's in the version that's included on the box set. Um, the thing with Quinn and her and her new best friend and having to deal with a drinking problem issue. Kind of feel like that should have been a B plot for an actual for another episode in its own right, and having Quinn, and it puts Quinn in a different situation. Her having her first real job, like a part time job and so forth. But it kind of like goes. It kind of comes across as just giving Quinn something to do. Stacy, thinking like that she caused Sandy to lose her voice because of her birthday wish, because she was getting fed up with Sandy's attitude at that point in time, indicating that, oh, Stacy could not get a boyfriend for her birthday while everyone else, the other three members of the fashion club, were able to for their own birthdays. Kind of says a lot there, and but the payoff there of Stacy, like, okay, she's apologizing for what happened or what she, things happen in terms of Stace for Sandy getting laryngitis and then nearly killing Tiffany in the process of trying to give Sandy a like a cure of sorts. But then she sees this list of things that Sandy wants her to do. It's like, you know what, this isn't worth it. And then basically this leads to the dissolving of the fashion club. Yet they're still going to hang out together. It's which is ironic in and of itself. Um, it is kind of funny in a way that you kind of wish it was Quinn being in that position, but that leads to the end of the fashion club, or maybe. But I'm giving it to Stacy is a nice moment, considering her character kind of gets like that late push to get like give her something that how she sees how because you get it in Artburn, you have like the character sure that she kept when the sand when the rest of them wanted destroyed. She has the time with Upchuck, which it it which stands out a way. So she gets this late push to kind of like make things her own. But well, what you gonna do there? The whole Daria's like breaking up with Tom, like not being able to go into the college that he was going to. Like she borderline reluctantly tries uses like his family connections to see if okay maybe he can get her in to the college so they can be together. But when that doesn't work out, like she breaks up with him that way. She gets Jane to go to college, and they're going to be both be in Boston. If there is one thing that stands out as also as a positive, is like Quinn realizing that Quinn goes to a college party and like realizing, oh, these people are going to be just like Daria. Like college is not, it's certainly not like high school, and all the stuff that Daria like dreaded about high school is like Quinn tells her like, hey, you're going to enjoy college. There are going to be people just like you there. So that's a nice like sisterly moment there. And then Daria gets the big graduation. Like high school sucks, and like the only thing that what made it what made high school going for her. It's like what made it good for her or bearable for her because she had her family, she had her best friend, and it all worked out again. So yeah, but the pacing of it and the fact that certain things got like cut off or edited down kind of like cut some of the teeth off of it. It's a shame that the original aired version is like lost to time. And also for the record, the last couple of days I did try to find it. I was not able to find like the restored version. So in the end, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 episodes in the A tier, 15 in the eight. Excuse me, six. Excuse me. It's been a couple hours here, folks. So one less in the A tier, two. Then B tier has less there. It is kind of funny there. It's like Daria, in terms of how this is broken down, unironically, it's like okay, the tier with the most is actually the S tier. Then it gets okay. You got a bunch of A tiers, bunch of B tiers, slightly fewer C tiers, slightly fewer D tiers, and then you got the two abominations that should be. That I never want to watch those two episodes again. Anyway, it's kind of funny, like in episodes that the further we went along, things kind of like shook out. It's like was things more fresh in my memory. Was able to give more justification to stuff, but that is what it is. So with that said, If you have made it to the end of this video, it's time to announce what the hell the next series is going to be, since we're done with Daria. And how about something shorter and unusual? Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, the forgotten series of Ninja Turtles that aired in the late 90s that had a crossover with Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, excuse me, Power Rangers in Space, right? And those two episodes are actually included on this box set. Um, so so if I figure out the continuity of that, where those episodes would air, we'll probably go in order to do like, so that'll be like 28 episodes. Because it might be the only time I would ever do like a Power Rangers reaction would be a part of this. So I need to come up with a title, however. So hence why the end of the Daria reactions was all done in 1 week, because it gives me time to prep for this. So with that said, tighten your friendship bracelet, stay safe, have a good one, like, comment, subscribe if you're so inclined, and we'll see y'all in the next video. So then, have a good one.